Welcome, Internet, to the PixelPlay Podcast, your weekly gaming podcast for gamers, by gamers. I am one of your co-hosts, Kaylan, aka Catastrophe, joined as always by my co-hosts, Adam, CS Radical, and Chris at Gin and Chris. This week's episode, guys, I got huge news. Big news. It happened. Dun,
Which happened?
dun, dun!
You bought a mini fridge.
The Sony Pony is now an Xbox.
He's got a mini fridge and an air conditioner. Great.
Yeah, it happened, guys. I got an Xbox. I got an Xbox for I'm gonna be honest. I got it for Starfield. That's pretty much what it is. This is a Starfield machine.
I can't wait for us to all get on the show and talk about how bad this game is. And
Don't you dare!
I bought an
Don't you dare.
Xbox for this.
Don't you dare! No,
Yeah,
honestly, you go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say it better not be bad. I've already bought the Starfield headset, and then Xbox has a sale this week at all retailers for the controllers, and the Starfield controller went $15 off. And I was like, I already have. I'm gonna go buy it. And then I
Worst
now
case
have
scenario,
matching controllers.
You got stickers. You can cover shit. It's fine.
And so Xbox showed that they're gonna have those wraps now for the console.
Those are so smart and so cool.
Yeah, and the Starfield one matches my new headset and controller conveniently. I didn't plan for that at all. This game better not suck at
You
this
keep
point.
wanting to
I'm
go
gonna
to
look like a
Sony being
fool.
like, guys, those panels are removable. It's not.
I think they're doing it.
It's not hard.
They're doing that now for the
Yeah, but just color,
Spider-Man.
right?
No, they're doing like a Spider-Man.
Spider-Man one.
Like,
Oh,
yeah, you can get
that's
the
right.
collector's edition one is now going to be available there.
All right, fine.
But
Well,
yeah.
Sony did it first. Fuck you, Xbox fanboys.
Yeah, like a couple of my buddies were saying, like it's a weird day when I get an Xbox because I am like my basement is a PlayStation themed basement, and it seems almost sacrilegious to have an Xbox in it.
It's okay though. We know
Oh.
hell hasn't frozen over yet. We're all Canadians here. The Leafs haven't won a Stanley Cup. It's okay. We're still safe. The apocalypse has been averted for the time being. There
But,
might be
like-
the odd like locust, in fact, like that rain that might happen, but I don't think we're in full apocalypse mode yet.
We won't
I
even
mean, it's
notice. We're busy
2023.
gaming.
It's 2023. Anything could happen now, right? Like
Oh, yeah, that's true.
subs are imploding. Everything's on fire. It's 2023. It's a year of anything, right?
It's true. I bought a Switch this year. You've got an Xbox this year. Like shit's going downhill, man.
It's
Oh my
weird.
gosh,
End
That
times.
is true.
I played a JRPG.
And
Like, let's be real.
I'm trying to think. I don't even know if Chris can do anything because he just gets everything and then just adds to his workload. Like what's left?
This
Like
was-
Chris
Chris is gonna-
he decides to just get rid of his backlog and be like, guys, I have no more games I want to play.
I was gonna say that's Chris. That's
Oh.
Chris's 2023 like turnaround. Is he's like, I got no backlog. I cleared it.
my non-refundable funds, if I just gave up on my backlog, oh my gosh, my bank account would just look at me like dead face. Like, why did you do it?
He's gonna finally
Why?
do it one week, and then Chris is gonna show up with like a monocle and just be like, "Hello, peasants."
Yeah,
Guys, I
gotta
found
be
a way
honest,
to refund everything.
I gotta be honest. I'm really liking it. I'm still very early into getting into the Xbox. I got the set with Diablo 4, so I've been playing Diablo, which is a lot of fun.
Oh.
Yeah, I've so my wife got it for me for my birthday, and she's like, it was $10 for the extra one with the Diablo. I'm like, $10 for Diablo 4, can't go wrong with that. So
Yeah.
I'm liking
Yeah,
it.
good, 'cause
It's
that's
pretty
about
good
as much
so
as
far.
It's worth.
I'm not into the whole
Oh.
controversy. I don't really know what's going on with it. I don't care. So far, early game, it's fun. I'm playing as a necromancer. He looks like a skeleton.
I love the Necromancer in Diablo. I'm a huge Diablo fan. I haven't played the fourth one yet. I'm just waiting till, again, backlog. You know,
Yeah.
just can't get that yet.
Or until when there's
Yeah.
enough mods out there to make the game better after Activision Blizzard has completely destroyed that thing.
My understanding is that it's the post game that they kind of botched. It's not so much the main
Yeah,
game.
a lot of what's really pissing people off is just how much they're literally trying to nickel and dime you. Like the biggest example that I've seen is how you can accidentally buy the season pass and there's no like, you know how whenever you want to delete something you get the notice to be like, hey, are you sure about this? You don't get that for the season pass. If you start redeeming it, it just automatically buys it.
Smart.
Hmm.
Business perspective, smart.
It's
Shady
just
as
like,
fuck.
are you
Yes.
are you sure you don't not want to not get rid of the season pass?
It should be it should be the opposite. Every time you just try to click on anything that says free, it's like, are you sure you don't not want to give us money?
They've got like one little like no box that just kind of hovers throughout the screen. The rest of the screen is just a yes, and if you missed it, it's yes.
I'm picturing that screensaver for DVD players back in the day.
Yeah,
where it's
and that's the only no. And if you miss it, it just hits yes automatically. So
I love it.
I
love it.
But yeah, no,
you've been
been
away
good.
for 2 weeks. What the hell have you been up to otherwise?
I've been busy. I finished Final Fantasy 16. It's a solid
You know what? Given the non-JRPG guide, that sounds like a glaring review, like a glowing review, I should say.
I'm gonna for the audio listeners, I am taking off my JRPG crown and putting it down. I'm no longer. Honestly, so like my quick 60-second review is, I liked the beginning of this game. It was cool. It is far too shallow and far too wide for what it is. It stays way too long. The combat is not long enough to sustain it. And then it gets rid of the Game of Thrones aspect kind of storyline, and then it just goes for something completely stupid that did not resonate with me at all. I didn't care. I was skipping I wasn't skipping cutscenes, but I was kind of like, all right, I was reading them and fitting through. Like, I didn't want to listen to all the boring jargon, and just there was a lot of filler and a lot of stuff at the end that did not resonate. And by that point, the polish had worn off the repetitive stuff that I'd been doing, that I just kind of said, I'm done. That's about it.
It's going to be potentially interesting because I'm going to start it after this show. I started Disco Elysium, and I actually like it, but I also don't like it because it's very slow. I love how it feels like every little thing you do, especially with the different stats that you use, they can all trigger different parts in the conversation. So if a certain stat's high enough, it'll trigger like your ability to kind of go over a crime scene and do this. Or if there's something in a conversation that makes you feel empathetic, it can trigger something and be like, hey, and it just adds little tidbits. Depending on how you build your character, you'll hear different things each time. And I also just love the twisted sense of humor that the game has in the little bit that I have played. And I really do like it. I think it's the kind of game, though, that I can probably pop in for an hour, do a little bit more, and then leave it. I don't think it's a game that I can stick in long term. It just isn't. Maybe it'll change if I go back into it and it hits like a certain point and it really starts clicking, which I wouldn't be shocked if it does with the way that the game is going. I just haven't gotten deep enough yet to like see where it really starts to get moving. But like, I've enjoyed it, but not to the point of like, okay, this is my game now that I spend all my time. Obviously, if you were here last week, Kaylan, I finished 2 short games, so I got that little bit out. And with Sea of Stars and Starfield coming out, I'm like, okay, shit, what am I going to do now? And I figure Final Fantasy 16 is probably the smartest thing to do because there is very high potential I don't even finish it. And that would be a really fascinating conversation for us to have if, let's say, next week or the following week, somehow I don't finish that game. And we have the conversation coming around of like, Chris, wrong direction on my screen. Chris, who really likes the game, Kaylan, who finished it but is lukewarm on it by the time it was over, and me, who's going to be like, I fucking hate this game. That would be amazing. I have a feeling, even if I don't finish it, it'll be more of a thing of like, I get why people like it. This is not gonna be for me. I don't like, based on what I played from the demo, I don't think it's bad. I think it's just the atmosphere is not my cup of tea. So I guess we'll find out probably next week how that's gonna go. But you know, that's a 7 days from now problem.
Yeah.
Funny thing is, I think I know exactly why Kaylan kind of fell off it. The beginning half of it, which is what you're going to hate, Adam, is the very Game of Thrones mature, serious tone that they kind of changed up.
And like kingdom versus kingdom.
Yeah. So basically, by the time the halfway point of the game comes in, you suddenly enroll in high school and it becomes a harem JRPG. All right, got it. I'm ready to go.
Close. No, not close. But yeah, where Kaylan definitely started to fall off is when the serious Game of Thrones started to go away, and that JRPG just came flying right back into that story.
Like a train, like a steam engine just coming through.
Motherfucker. Actually, no, I don't want this question answered because it would actually give shit away if I actually do finish the game. Never mind.
We'll talk about it next week.
Okay, for those who want to know the question, I was going to ask them, okay, is the main thing that makes this a JRPG, is the boss actually someone you were going after the entire game? But I don't want that answer because that will clearly give things away.
Adam,
we'll talk about that next week in this podcast.
What you have to do is find somebody who already has a save file going about halfway into the game. Just
all right,
start
Chris,
there.
Can you start replaying the game a little bit for me?
If I was going to go for the platinum, I will have to do that anyways to beat it in Final Fantasy mode. But I don't know if
you have a Trails game to play. Don't you dare.
I have a Trails game to play? No, I haven't gamed hardly at all. This is confusing for me. I just have been distracted by so many different stupid things. I've been like obsessed with more of my setup with everything than actually just playing games, like playing around with the Steam Deck, going into the beta and like playing around with settings where like I don't know, it's
Oh my
silly
God.
stuff.
You've become a full PC Master Race nerd.
Oh, I already was that before. I actually had no consoles up until the PS5 and Xbox. I was PC only for like 6 or
No, but
7 years.
now you're just configuring and you're just like, flashing drives and doing all that kind of
Look,
stuff.
he's
Oh,
like
yeah.
he's like a junkie. He's been away long enough. He started to get over it, and then eventually just comes crawling back in.
This comes right
we
back
need
in.
to come back for the updating of drivers.
Oh yeah.
Want to
No,
fix
it's
your
just-
screen resolution?
That's exactly why I was doing it. That's so funny.
Fucking nerd.
Resolution's an 800p screen, and a lot of games are in 720 and aren't like the 800. So Steam Beta has this thing where it stretches the screen or zooms in and fills out the screen for you while you're playing. So I was just like fooling around with all of those settings. But I mean, I do have some video game news, Kaylan, for you. Like one, I beat Cult of the Lamb, went through,
well done,
beat
sir.
it all.
Well done.
That
done.
was an incredible game.
No,
I
don't
loved
rush through
every
this.
minute of that.
Don't rush through this. Let's savor this. What'd you think?
It's so good. It's just
Right?
it's Animal Crossing, like it hits that coziness, which is
But
weird
it's
because
so
like,
dark. It is so good.
it's so dark. It's like, oh, I love all of these people, but I have to sacrifice you now. Or it's like,
I love
oh,
all
they're
of them.
praying for me.
Sacrifice.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like, oh, I should build this nice statue. It's a lamb with bleeding eyes, but yeah, let's all stand around it. Yay! Like it's Animal Crossing and with a very dark twist. It has like a mini game of that dice mini game, which
it's so
ties
good, right?
into yeah. Like that was so simple, and I had to beat every character. I did. I went. I beat everybody in that. Just the pick up and playness of this game. I highly suggest if anybody has a Steam Deck, play it there. No idea how it plays on the Switch. I'm assuming it's fine. But
it's
if you
primo
have,
on PlayStation 5, so go for that.
yeah, console would be great. I loved just being able to pick it up and just play like 2 or 3 runs of I don't know, like going into one of the areas and you would do a run.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the dungeon crawl. Like it's very easy because it's like you do like 9 rooms and then you get to pick a path and you go to one room, you pick a path, you go to one room, and then you're in the final 9 rooms, which leads to a mini boss, and then you're back at your village where you get to do a little Animal Crossing sacrifice or whatever the heck you want to call it. And then you can go do another dungeon crawl. And it's like I would pick it up. I'd play for an hour and a half, or sometimes I did end up playing till like 3 in the morning one day when I was still on the couch, and it was a work day. I was like, oh, I gotta go to bed because it's very addicting. Like no
It's
matter
very hard
what,
to like it has that one
Yeah.
more round like scenario in it.
yeah, because it's like,
And-
oh, I'll just like work on the village a bit. I'll kind of just get everybody's faith up and get them all food and learn that new recipe and build that thing. You know what? Okay, I'll go do one dungeon because now I need a few more resources for that hut I was gonna build. So I'll go do one dungeon. Now you're back. Okay, well I'll quickly build the hut. Well, I better do a sermon because I haven't done that yet today. And then
Gotta
you
do
do
those.
that, and then you're like fixing up something else. It's like, oh, I need more resources. And then it's like, oh, I'll go do one more. Wait a minute, I'm just stuck in a cycle. It's a great
And
cycle, but oh my god, it takes your time away.
And here's the problem with Cult of the Lamb is that it does both things great. Like the combat dungeon crawling is awesome. And the
Yeah.
sim aspect is awesome. Like I look at something like Stardew Valley. Stardew Valley is an awesome game. But let's be honest, the caves kind of suck. Like they're not the best part of
Yeah,
that game.
I don't like the caves
right?
in the
Right? They're like it's a necessary evil that you do, but like Cult of the Lamb, they're both like I am just as excited to run my little cult as well as I am to go fight like the other like demons. Like yeah, it's awesome. It's a fantastic game.
Yeah.
Game of the year
It's-
2022.
Yeah, and you get to like name some of the animals and change them as they come in. So one came in as a hedgehog, and I was
Yeah.
like, I'm immediately going to make you blue and name you Sonic. There's no way I'm not doing this. And then a raccoon came in. I'm like, well, your name's Rocket. And then I
Yeah.
unlocked the thing where you can marry some of your followers, and I'm like, me
Yeah.
and Rocket are getting married. And like, it's just.
And
It's
then
so
eventually you had to
addicting.
you forced yourself to sacrifice Sonic, and then it came back, but it came back black, so it became Shadow.
Actually, Sonic died of old age, and then a new hedgehog showed up, and she was pink, and I was like, "And you are Amy. Welcome to be the new Sonic. Thank you." Like, there was a whole thing.
That is
I remember
that
my-
is extremely mean to Amy. The Sonic dies, and you immediately bring her into the world. What is
I didn't
wrong
bring
with
her.
you? This game is darker
Exactly.
than I thought.
I found her in a dungeon. She was going to be eaten by a giant spider, but he sold me her for
You
50
should
bucks,
have
okay?
let her. That's what she would have wanted.
I remember
I
naming
needed more followers.
all my cultists always started with either like brother whatever or sister whatever. Everyone was like that in my cult. It was so like
Oh, nice.
Homestown. It was kind of messed up. I loved it.
Yeah,
It's so good.
it's so good. That's such a just great game. But yeah, I did beat that. And then I started Trails in the Sky, the very first of the 10 game marathon that Adam did. I haven't played any more. I'm like 5 hours in or something. It's very addicting. Again, if I wasn't just fooling around with a bunch of stuff, I ended up getting like super, super cheap off that CD Keys website a copy of Miles Morales on Steam.
Nice.
So I was like, all right, it's so cheap right now. Like it's almost free basically. That just happens
Wait.
with PC games sometimes.
Had you not played Miles Morales yet?
Oh, it's platinumed on my PS5.
Oh, okay,
but
cool.
I
Just
needed to
checking.
know
But it's playing it
how
on his
would
Steam
run.
Deck.
Yeah,
It's
I needed
almost
to
like it's
know,
a new
what's
game.
it like? I needed to know how does it run, and then I'm playing with the settings, and it was fucking beautiful. Like I could not believe, like it's only at 720p and all that, but I guess just the graphics look so good that even when you lower the resolution and it's on that tiny screen, it just
Yeah, I
still
mean, on a
holds
screen that
up.
small, you're not going to notice the pixel count the same way that you would on a big screen
Yeah.
TV.
No.
And I got it at like a stable 45 frames per second, which I set the screen on the Steam Deck. You can set it. So I matched it to that 45. So it feels like a fluid 60 frames. And I was just swinging around. I'm like, uh-oh, I'm going to fall back into a game I've already beaten. My backlog cannot allow this.
No.
Then I have a nice gaming PC here. I'm like, well, what's Miles Morales looks like on my gaming PC? I should try that. And then all of a sudden I'm getting this 4K beautiful image at like 200 frames per second of Miles Morales. I'm like, this is the best way to play this game. I can't believe. Yeah, so it's been an ordeal this past week for me. I've mostly just been tinkering with the concept of gaming and the setups of it instead of actually just playing it. But hopefully next week I'll play something.
You have a disease, sir. You have a disease.
Actually, you know what? There was one game I played, and it only took a couple hours, and I play with a friend, and I can give a review in about 30 seconds because it's free on Steam, and I suggest everybody play it. It's called We Were Here, and it's a very simple game where you have to play co-op.
Yeah.
Two people, you're just two people out in the wilderness, or actually it's like snow, so you're somewhere very far up north. You
Wilderness
end up walking
is still
in
snow.
True. That's very true. Whoops. And you end up going into a castle. Some weird giant Dracula monster guy sees you, blows out your torch, and then the game actually starts where the two of you wake up somewhere else in the castle. And the whole point of the game is that it has a built-in voice chat. You each find walkie-talkies. It's the first thing you find in your rooms. One of you is called the librarian and one is the explorer. And you can only talk through walkie-talkies, so only one can talk at a time. You have to hold down V on your keyboard, talk. Me and my friend determined you have to say over afterwards so you know when the other person's done, or else you won't hear each other. Like
that's just a general rule of walkie-talkie. That's not something that you made. That's just a law of walkie-talkie.
No, but I mean, in this game, they made it that accurate that if I were to talk and then you started to talk, one of us won't hear the other person because walkie-talkies aren't both ways at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So we literally had to treat it like a real walkie-talkie instead of just like Discord chat.
I thought you were like saying like, man, we had this clever idea that you had to say over when we use walkie-talkie.
No, because the correct response is you don't say over, you go.
That's true. But it was a really cool game because like I was in this library and I had all these runes and like a projector and a torch and all this other stuff. And the other guy is actually walking around the castle and it's like, I've gotten to a room, it's filling with water, and it says that I have a minute to live. And then I would like find all of a sudden a door that opens and I go down some stairs and there's all these pipes with like the wheels on them. What the hell is the wheel called?
Like
that
valves?
you turn the... Yeah, valves. There we go. That's what I was looking for.
You're playing on a Steam Deck and you didn't think of Valve.
No, no, I was just playing on my actual computer. On the Steam Deck, this probably would have ran great, but I would have been freaking out because I wouldn't have known the button prompts off the top of my head. But yeah, you got to turn certain valves so that his room stops filling with water. And then once it gets fixed, a rune appears at the bottom. And then I got to go open a book that matches that rune, which gives him, I don't know, like which torch to light, which opens a door so he can continue. And it's this thing about the two of you escaping this castle and you have to communicate because some of the information is in one area and one's in the others. And neither of your sets is complete. So you need each other to escape completely by puzzle solving over a walkie-talkie. Such a fantastic game, and it's free on Steam. There's like 4 of them now, but the first one is free on Steam. It's like if you're able to figure it out, it took us 3 hours. Another cool thing, you cannot save. You have to do it in a single run. If you are halfway and give up, you literally have to walk
I'm
away
out.
from the game.
I'm out. I can't commit to 3 hours
good.
anymore.
This is true.
That actually reminded me. I wanted to kind of quickly shout out. I was playing a game with Jen. Awesome co-op game suggested to me by a coworker. It is called Escape Academy. Basically, if you want to play an escape room with a couch co-op, it's basically an escape room. It is so much fun. We had such a great time. Yeah, highly recommend. I think it's like $20, and I think there's like 9 different escape rooms, and like they're not super cheap. Like they're not super cheap, but they're also not like super convoluted either. Like it's a perfect balance. We had a couple times we had to look stuff up. They give you hints, but basically captures the escape room feel. Highly recommend it. Stories, whatever.
I know also
but
with PlayStation Plus Extra. I don't know if you've played It Takes Two yet.
No, I've not played that
also
one.
a really good co-op game, and now that that's
Really
on
good
Extra,
game.
it's free essentially. So
Cool.
and
Yeah,
that
that's a
one's
really good one.
real good for couch co-op.
Yeah.
Adam, what have you been up to? What have you been playing?
Not much other than the Disco Elysium thing, but I have a fun idea or a fun
What's
thing
up?
to do because obviously we're all nostalgia. Do you all remember Dunkaroos?
Yes.
Hell yeah. Oh, have you tried Dunkaroos lately?
No, or yes, they suck. They aren't the same.
Yeah, they got rid of like the hard, super preservative one, and now it's almost like a shortbread, and it's like bleh.
Yeah. So
No.
I went for lunch today to a vegan place, like a punk rock vegan little establishment, and they had this, which is a cookie, and they call it a punkaroo.
That's
Yeah.
pretty clever.
So I'm going to see
like
if
it.
it tastes, because it's the confetti kind, so it's the one that we all remember, the light brown, like cinnamon-ish kind of cookies with the confetti frosting.
All right, we'll wait with bated breath as to the review.
That's really good.
Okay,
That's the shit right there.
awesome.
That's
Guys,
so good.
I have a question for you guys. We
Yes.
are probably in one of the best years of gaming in terms of releases, and I've got a problem, and I think it's one that at least Chris can attest to as well. There's
Yeah.
too many fucking games. There are too many games. Like
It's a good problem to have, but there's too many.
Is it though? Because here's my
Yes.
thing. I want to talk to you guys about like dealing with FOMO and trying to keep up with the newest games and backlogs creeping up on us. Because it's something I'm starting to feel now. Because like I got the Xbox because I want to play Starfield. That's what I want to play. But this is just lining up terribly because Baldur's Gate's reviews are just blowing up 10 to 10s across the board. And as excited as I am for Starfield, I don't think it's going to compare in terms of review score for Baldur's Gate. So I'm now in a position where I'm like, I got both. I want to play both. And I also just got Tears of the Kingdom from a buddy. So like I've got 3 massive games that I'm getting access to within about a span of a couple weeks. And as a dad, I have very little gaming time. So I'm kind of getting some anxiety. I'm getting some FOMO that, there's just too many games. And like, it's not like that after this little bump, it clears. We still have Assassin's Creed Mirage coming out, which has now gotten bumped up. So it's coming out earlier. And there's also Spider-Man 2 coming out as well. Like, and I want to play that Warhammer game when that comes out in December. So like,
Oh, yes.
there's a lot of games coming out and there's not enough time to play it and also still not be a deadbeat dad or like unemployed. So like, I don't know what to do. Like, do you guys have this like anxiety of like constantly trying to play the newest games and kind of being part of the zeitgeist? Or are you guys okay just like, I'll get to it when I get to it? Because like for me, I've been kind of spoiled lately having one console, just kind of having a stream of constantly playing the newest thing. And I'm feeling right now I'm kind of overwhelmed.
I
Oh,
guess
yeah,
How
I'm
do you
the
guys
wrong
feel
person.
with this?
I'm probably the wrong person to answer this question because I don't have a kid. I work from home, so my time is not being taken away on the road. And yeah, like I have plenty of time to game, so for me it's not terrible. Like there's a lot of stuff that I'll go, shit, I don't want to pay full price for that. Like I'm excited for Baldur's Gate because again, anything that gets that level of glowing reviews, I'm curious about. Doesn't matter what kind of game it is. So I'm excited to play that, but I'm not excited to pay $80 for anything these days. So meh, I can wait. Starfield, on the other hand, it's like, okay, it's not going to cost me anything because I'm already paying for Game Pass. This is going to be a shit show. I need to play this right away. And I know that depending on what it is, like there are certain things that like I know I cannot wait for, and then there are things that, it's at a point now that I go, there's too much going on. I can put this aside for 6 months. It's fine. Like there are certain things that I will cut, like Trails into Reverie was the big one, obviously, recently. I think it depends. Like in your case, Kaylan, yeah, you're gonna get this feeling. It's impossible not to because you have like 3 hours a week, so you have a little bit more struggle. Like the only solution you have is to get rid of this podcast. You got 2 more hours.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why he's been gone for 2 weeks. It's not that he had other things to do. He's just like, I need to play some fucking video games. I can't talk about anything on the show anymore.
I've caught up to all my skill and knowledge.
I think the solution, first of all, to your FOMO is bedtime for your kid is now 4 p.m. That's the smartest first step. All right. Think of it. In winter, it gets dark early. Set that cycle, right? You just prep for winter. That's what you can call it. It'll be fun.
The problem is that like I don't pick him up till 5 and he has to still eat dinner. It's like, here, we'll just drip feed the like food via IV while you sleep.
Okay, fine. It can be like 5:40.
You just mix like NyQuil into the food.
Oh, don't give him Dayquil. That's
not Dayquil.
Dayquil is the opposite of what I want. That's just gonna get him going.
Yeah, you need NyQuil. Nighttime only.
He's gonna be buzzing at 2 a.m. Like, let's go play Hot Wheels, and it's gonna be hard for me to say no. Because I want to play Hot Wheels.
Because I want to play Hot Wheels. Yeah, I get the FOMO all the time, and I have a fair bit of time. Don't get me wrong, like I live with my fiance, and I don't want to be a deadbeat fiance and all that kind of stuff. And I have other things I want to do in life and succeed at, and also be employed, and all of the things that like do come up. But it's just hard because I used to only have a PC, and yes, my backlog got huge, but at least it was always one game at a time on my one console, on my PC. I always felt like I was accomplishing something because it was something in my backlog. I only had the one. So if I was installing something from it, it was always progress. And then Adam, you were there at the time when I was like, oh, maybe I'll get a PlayStation. I just haven't had a console for a while. And then the Game Pass stuff started coming out, and I was like, oh, I'll get a Series S. It'll be just something on the side, and that installs on the PC. I already have a PC. A little bit of Game Pass would be fine. Why pay $80 when I can pay less? And now I'm at a point where I have every possible console. I've got 2 portables because I got the Switch and a Steam Deck. It does help, obviously, the Steam Deck with my backlog. But now I have a backlog and a Game Pass and a PlayStation exclusive with the monthly PlayStation games, and then Nintendo with its exclusives, and they keep actually having a couple a year that I really want. And then I always kind of look at like, I don't know, the Super Nintendo. It's like, oh, they added like a Link to the Past, and it's like, oh, I really want to play that. That's a really good game. It's just I'm stuck in my nostalgia and my backlog and my FOMO of these brand new games, and they're the hardest ones because if I don't play like, you know, Link to the Past or something, I've already played it before. It's fine. If I don't play something off my backlog, it's already there. I still have it, and I already went this long without playing it. I didn't miss anything. But like Spider-Man 2, Assassin's Creed, Jedi Survivor, Tears of the Kingdom, Final Fantasy 16, Baldur's Gate 3, Starfield, Hogwarts Legacy, Hi-Fi Rush, like all of these things came out, and all of them I've aimed, besides Baldur's Gate because it's already out, I've aimed to play day one, and so far I've been keeping up with it, but it's almost exhausting keeping up with it because like maybe I'll get an itch to want to play something else, and I'm like, I can't. I have a schedule, and if I fall behind, I won't be able to start Final Fantasy 16 because Tears of the Kingdom isn't done. I cannot go play that little indie game that looks really cool on Game Pass. Like I've scheduled my life. I have a notepad on my phone going of what games I need to play that month, what games I should play off Game Pass, and my backlog to keep me on track so I don't get distracted. And it's like, do I enjoy that a bit? Sure. But do I also kind of just wish I didn't have this FOMO and had to play everything right away? Because then I could save money and buy games dirt cheap later on when they also work flawlessly because all the updates have come out and like whatever. Yeah, that'd be really, really good. But that FOMO of missing that conversation in a Discord of somebody else playing it, and then I'm
zeitgeist. And also just avoiding spoilers too, right? Like,
and the oh my gosh, the spoilers thing is exhausting.
I'm pretty good with spoilers, but yeah, like I have a lot of friends right now that are going ham on Baldur's Gate, and I'm like, I want to participate, but at the same time, it's also like, at least I know it's single player. I can get that on my own time. Like, it's another thing when, like, the first time I left Destiny, because I've left Destiny twice over, and this one is probably permanent, because now that I've done it again, I'm like, I don't know.
Probably
I don't think I
permanent.
can commit to another one like that again. But like the first time I left and seeing people talk about the new raids and stuff, that sucks. Cause you're like, oh,
Mhm.
well, that was the reason I left Destiny the first time was because the content was just garbage to me. Like it was boring. And then the next DLC comes out and people are just talking about how awesome it is. I'm like, you can't help yourself. And it's the same with like other games too. Like obviously Baldur's Gate being the most recent one, but I'm trying to think of Cyberpunk when it started getting better again and people were telling like how good it was again, and I'm like, okay,
That was me.
yeah, like I'm
That was me
curious
telling
about
you
that.
that.
Thankfully, it's still sitting on my PC, but now I'm like, fuck it, we're waiting for Phantom Liberty at this point and seeing how that goes. So, I mean,
But now
but
you've
It's
got
another
the
one.
now you've got the dilemma because now you still have like Starfield, you have Baldur's Gate. I'm assuming you're playing Spider-Man,
oh yeah, for sure.
and then like you now have Cyberpunk too. Like those aren't small games. Like that's
Yeah.
a
The
good couple
upside at
hundred hours
least
of
is that,
gaming.
and my argument with the thing about there being too many games is the thankfulness that I have with it is that if I do inevitably play one of these things and it sucks or I don't like it, it's very easy to just move on to something else and not have to think like because it used to be like, especially in our younger years when you can only afford so much too. If you buy a game and it's terrible, you're like, shit, I can't really afford to just spend another full price game right now. And I've already been to EB Games like 5 times this week, combing through the used game shelves, hoping to find something new, even though it's
Dave
not
now
like
knows me by
anything
name.
changed
Like
in the last few days. And you're like,
you're
well,
walking
shit, I
in,
got
Dave's
nothing else to
like, how's
play.
it
What am I gonna
going?
do? Play fucking, I don't know, like the same game that I've played like 50 times now? Like, nowadays,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, this game didn't work out. What haven't I tried on Game Pass? Let's try something else and see what happens. Like that's the upside to it at the very least is that there's a fear of missing out on the day of for me personally, but it's also guys in the worst case scenario, I'll get to it eventually, and if it ends up not being worth the trouble of me like waiting for it, okay, I'll move on to like the other 10 things that are also on my radar. Because at the
Yeah.
very
Now
least, like there is a fear of missing, but there's also I don't have a fear of not having anything to do, which I think is more important to me, honestly, because boredom is a hell of a drug that isn't fun.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out like if this stems from like has gaming and the hobby and the industry changed, or is it us? Do we just have more disposable income and less free time than we used to? Because like I don't remember this being a thing when like 10 years ago. Like
I mean,
is
it's
it just
part of
like
it, but at the same time, again, like the industry's grown so much. Like we're talking about 3 consoles that are honestly like firing on all cylinders right now. I mean, everybody's gonna say like, "Oh, Xbox doesn't really have that many good games." Yeah, but their Game Pass is amazing. It's great value.
oh
So there's
yeah.
plenty to do if it's not Microsoft based. But
I
like
had a
Nintendo's
problem where
killing
I
it, Sony's killing it. PC is just it's never been as good as it and approachable as it ever has been. So there's so much out there. And can you imagine if like if Stadia didn't suck or if there was like another handheld in the market that was doing something else? Like it's crazy to think just how much there already is and there have been failed other attempts to add into the ecosystem.
Mhm.
Yeah, like 10 years ago, we I had like a PS3, well maybe not 10 years ago, but 11 years ago, I had a PS3 and a Wii U. And that was
Mhm.
it. Like you have two systems and yeah, the Wii U was like Nintendo back then had it exclusives and that was kind of it. But it was always like you had one console and then maybe the Nintendo system. And the
Yeah.
Nintendo one was never really a threat. It was always
Mhm.
just, Smash Brothers and Mario Kart, you can't live without them. You'd get
Dust it off when
them.
you need it.
Exactly. So you really only had the one system. And even then, like, if I think of PS3, there was a lot of like banger games, but it seems like they were a lot more separated. Like, if
Mhm.
maybe like development wasn't as easy as it is now. And I'm not saying, sorry, not as easy, maybe just not as streamlined or something like that with the amount of developers and process.
Mhm.
I know that developing for the PS3 was a nightmare because it was like this weird system. And starting with the PS4, it became more like developing for PC, and that's why you can see a lot more multi-console games versus back then.
Mhm.
I think it's just that they've started to put out more games because they know the more they put out, the more money they make as developers, publishers, all that. And I think it's just a little bit more common. Like Adam, you were saying, getting into the PC market is easier now. Yes, it's still very expensive, but if you want a weaker PC that can still play a crap ton of games,
Yeah, the advent
it's
of
pretty
indie games
easy to
makes it
get in
so
there.
much more approachable. Like, you're not going to play like
Oh yeah.
the top end stuff, but there's so much stuff on Steam alone that you can get into.
Yeah. And yeah, like Steam has made it like that. And then now we're coming out with all brand new products like the Steam Deck. Like you want to play PC games, but you can't afford a huge PC. You can spend $500, get a Steam Deck, which is dockable at a desk, and you can play PC games that way. Yes, at like 1080p. But I mean, if you're at a desk and you're just willing to pay only the $500, there you go. You have a full PC as well as a portable, and it can play so much freaking stuff. That's whether on Steam, but also PlayStation exclusives, also Xbox exclusives, all that kind of stuff. Like it's just opened even just that up. And a lot of people, there's just so many options, and a lot of people now I've noticed we have more income. We don't settle for one. We have like Kaylan, you have the PlayStation. You're like, I could really use a Starfield in my life, and you can go and get an Xbox.
That's also the big thing too, is that because we all collectively own, I think, do we all now technically own like every major like gaming device now? Because
we all have the Triforce now.
Yeah, the Triforce.
Well, and also like technically all of us can play on PC to varying degrees. I
Mm,
mean, you can play
I know.
Solitaire.
True. I got an Alienware
Conquer.
from 2014.
That's good
Hey.
enough for some things.
That is still in the
Go back
last
and play
decade.
Half-Life.
That'll play Command and Conquer. That's all that matters.
That's all I really need, really. I think like one of the things not to be understated though, like I think one big change as well is the idea of like influencers. Like we have far more, much more marketing and much more like a lot more influencers now that it's hard to like ignore the hype train of something, right?
Oh,
like,
yeah. Just take
like-
Twitch. That wasn't around when we were on PS3. Now, like you
Mhm.
go on Twitch, the amount of Baldur's Gate 3 in your face, it's insane. The
It's
amount
not
of
even
people that are
Twitch.
playing.
Like it's on TikTok, it's on Facebook, it's on YouTube. Like I watched a TikTok today and it's hilarious. Apparently you could get turned into a cheese. Like you could get turned into a block of cheese in Baldur's Gate. Like
That seems
this
about
game is
right.
insane.
Apparently, you can just straight up boot a squirrel into oblivion. So it's
I heard
one
one
of those
guy,
things that it also keeps me interested in Baldur's Gate is that anything I see, it's like shows that how a lot of games, generally speaking, if you have the good evil route, good is obviously as good like the goody two shoes going to save everybody route, and being evil is really just being a dick.
Mhm.
Baldur's Gate seems to go no, you're fucking evil.
I know there's a guy right now who's going around doing a playthrough where he's just a serial killer and he's murdering every NPC in the first act of the game.
I mean, why not?
Oh,
if
the
it lets
option.
you do it.
Dungeons
I
and
think-
Dragons done right.
I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use Starfield as my main game in September, and I'm going to play Baldur's Gate like a true D&D game. I'm going to play it once a week. I'm going to cancel every other week because it doesn't work with my schedule, and I'm going to play it like a true D&D game.
That's amazing. And you can spend half of the time just discussing with friends about real life and making no progress. Then
Exactly.
you'll finally go in.
But it's just him
give a
talking to
roll.
her. He has to have like a couple of mirrors, so there's just like a couple of versions of himself around a table.
I'll call my sister before I play, just chat with her for a bit.
But I
yeah.
think that's a
Oh,
big part of it. Like, there's so many reasons as to why we're kind of in these predicaments. I mean, obviously, again, having the disposable income means that we can have all of these consoles, which puts every option conceivable out there on us. Again, also we're older, so working like high school was, you still went to school, but it didn't feel nearly as long because you at least were hanging out with people that most of the time you liked. So it didn't always feel like you were wasting time. Whereas most of us, when we work at a place, we either tolerate the people we there or we fucking hate them. There's very rare cases where you're like, you love to go to work because you want to see people. So it's not quite there. So it feels like a lot more time is being taken away from you already. And especially if you drive there, yeah, you're losing a lot of time. So
Yeah.
you already have that. In Kaylan's case, especially being a dad, it's also really throwing the extra wrench into any gaming plans. So like, it really is a big factor of just like so many things coming together. The gaming industry has gotten bigger. There's so much more out there for different niches. And having the income to get everything you want puts all those options in front of you, but you also have the less time that you didn't either. If this was a case where you only had a PlayStation, this probably wouldn't feel that bad. But because it's PlayStation and here's everything else, you're all like, well,
Yeah.
I do like that. I also like that and that and that and that and that and that, and it just keeps going.
I think one other thing that we're kind of missing here, and the last piece of this puzzle, is that games are much bigger now. Like Baldur's Gate, if I understand, it's like 100 hours to play. Tears of the Kingdom is just play until you're done. Like games are much bigger now, and I think like that's probably part of the problem as well. Is that it's not as easy to burn through like. Remember when the 30-hour game was considered like a long game?
Oh yeah, like the Uncharted games used to be considered like a bit of a long game. It was like, wow, this takes like 22 hours to complete. That's insane.
Yeah, like the big launch title for PS3 was Heavenly Sword, and it was like 4 hours.
Yeah. Well, even think about like something like how long was the original Final Fantasy VII like on the PS1? Like
that actually was probably about 40, 50 hours, I'd say.
And that was like the longest game, and that's now kind of like
longest.
Like that came on 2 discs.
3
discs, whatever.
Yeah.
I took the crown off. I don't need to know this shit anymore.
Yeah, he's not pretending anymore.
How dare you, sir?
He was pretending?
But yeah,
like
I think
Final
like
Fantasy VII, you're right. That was a big game then. That was like, whoa, you want a really big game? You did that, and everything else was The Bouncer by Square Enix, and you beat it in 4 hours.
Yeah, and like there were a lot of games that had like a lot of replayability. Like obviously Diablo 2 is a big one that people would play infinitely. And then obviously as soon as MMOs really started taking center stage for a while, like now all of a sudden hours sunk in became a big commodity for people. And I mean, I think I mentioned this specific thing when I did my open world rant. It would mostly just had to do with like obviously they're getting too big, so it takes way too much of your time. But I also, and I'm pretty sure I said this, is that we also are like rating games too much based on how much time they take now. Because like I remember being that way too, where I thought, oh, this game's 40 hours. Oh, I'll definitely play this because I'll get my money's worth. The reality now is that 40 hours isn't always the value. Like it's more like the 5 to 10 hours that are really good and that 40 hours that really mean something. Like, look, am I saying that after playing 10 fucking Trails games in the last 3 months that every single second of that game is great? Yes, I am, but that's my bias speaking. But if I'm actually being not biased, I would say, like, if I had to put a percentage to it, I don't know, like maybe 30-40% is like truly valuable, where the rest of it is in between, like walking around or endless battles and things like that. So, a game being 100 hours is like, especially with say Assassin's Creed, which with like Odyssey, Valhalla, it's obviously a very inflated 100 if that's the case. Whereas like there are games that people be like, oh, this is over in 8 hours. But if that 8 hours is incredible, like I could care less now. Like, especially because I don't play full price. That's the thing. Like I get it if you're paying $80 and it's a short game. Even if you really like it, sure, it sucks, but I mean, if you really like it, you really like it, right? Well, in the case of like a Hi-Fi Rush, if I had paid, I don't know, like what I normally would wait for, like $20-$30 for it, I would have thought it was well worth the value. But that's because I'm also capable of waiting until it's a little bit lesser because A, if I don't like it, I didn't spend nearly as much. And B, if it ends up being shorter than I thought it was going to be, well, at least I didn't feel like I got cheated out of too much money.
15 to 20 hours is like my sweet spot now. If a game comes out, it's like, hey, we got a 15 to 20 hour campaign. Beauty. That's why like Mirage is so appealing to me because they're like, hey, it is a short campaign. Like, how long is it? Christina, remember how long they said it's going to be?
I think they said it was 30 all in.
Yeah,
maybe?
like that's the sweet spot. Like,
and that could even be like 100%ing it, like literally doing everything. I can't remember which.
I'll believe it when I see it. I just
that 20
I'm
hours.
so used to Assassin's Creed games being forever to complete now that I'm like, no. I'm not taking your word until I see the numbers on how long to beat.
Yeah,
I love that website. Oh my god. I have a plugin on my Steam Deck that when I go to the games page, it has the how long to beat values right there above the play button. So I know if I should hit play or not. And every time I load up Trails in the Sky, it's scary as shit because it says like 55 hours. Adam.
I'm sorry, it's a lot of reading.
No, it's actually a good game. And the fast forward feature in that is...
That's the thing, too. It does help that you have the fast forward in those games. Actually, even the Cold Steel games... Did all of them have them when I was playing? I think they all did. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they all had the fast forward.
Nice. Yeah, like load up Cult of the Lamb, 13 hours all in. I was like, oh yeah, loading this up. I love it. Oh yeah. Because games being too big is, first of all, that doesn't mean they're good. Usually it's a lot of bloated crap we don't want. And also we can't because we have to beat it so we can get on to the next one, so we can get
I
on
think
to the
that's
next
also
one.
a big
so we
part
can
of
go
the
on the next one.
FOMO too, is that so many of the big name games are these massive open world games that take forever to beat. So there's also that thing of like, well, I don't want to play this yet because it might be broken and it's going to take me a long time to get through. But everybody's talking about it. I want it.
Right? I can't listen to my podcasts because they're talking about it and stuff. Like,
yeah,
but not here.
True.
Not here, guys. We always got your back. Except next week when we talk about Final Fantasy 16 in our spoiler cast review.
Maybe. We'll see.
Here's what's happening next week, everyone. I'm going to give you a spoiler. Adam's going to try Final Fantasy 16. He hates it. He's going back into Destiny, and he's going to talk about that, and it's all opening. He's going back in.
I don't even know what I'd replace 16 with if I end up not liking it.
I just told you.
I might just wait for Sea of Stars at that point.
I'll just do a couple rounds of Destiny while I wait for Sea of Stars. Boom.
What's a couple rounds?
That's 100 gigabytes.
What can a couple rounds do?
On my computer. I don't got room for that right now.
I'm just gonna smoke a little bit of crack. It's okay.
It's just a little bit, yeah. It's just if it's just one. I mean, I'll do 3.
Awesome. Well, I think, you know what, guys, as much as we're like, this sounds like not even like first world problems, it's like first nerd problems. Like, it is a really good problem to have, but like, yeah.
Oh yeah, let's be completely honest. Like, we're talking about things that don't actually matter, but in our circles they do. So
yeah, I feel like we just complained about having too much disposable income and games to play.
Oh yeah, we have definitely like we are definitely showing our like.
I have too much money and too many games.
I have too much money and disposable income and time.
Like whereas like I know that there are people right now, like in the wrestling community where I'm at, where they're doing a big show in Wembley this weekend. And it's going to do like 80,000+ people. And there are people that just can't get tickets into that show. And they're all like freaking out because they want to go to that, but they can't. But it's a one-time event. That's understandable of missing out because you're not going to get that one back. Fucking Starfield's going to be there for you forever. Well, okay, I won't say forever. Who knows how long they stay up online before they get lost in
It's not forever. It's not forever. At some point, the solar flares are going to come and wipe it all out. I've only got so much time before the solar flares wipe everything out with EMPs.
Yeah, I've seen the movie Goldeneye. I know what they're trying to do. They're going to wipe everything out with EMPs.
Yeah, but I'm invincible.
Oh, Boris. And some people listening to this are like way too young to understand any of these references. What's a Goldeneye? Isn't that new game on Game Pass?
God.
Why, yes, it is.
Anyways, guys,
play that. You'll understand the episode.
I think the best solution is we just wrap this up and we go play our respective games and meet back here this time next week. How's that sound?
That sounds like an idea.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, ladies and gentlemen,
can I continue eating my amazing Dunkaroos cookie that you guys don't have?
You're on your time. I don't care what you do. You can even do it while we do the outro. And we will start now. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of the PixelPlay Podcast. If you stuck around and you're still here, thank you so much. We greatly appreciate it. You can find all our episodes wherever you get your podcasts or on YouTube by searching for PixelPlay Podcast. We post every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We also have an awesome Discord group where we have conversations, we share news, we have fun little chats. You can find us on Instagram and Twitter under PixelPlay Podcast, or you can just find us easily under our link tree, linktr.ee/PixelPlay Podcast. You can find us all there. I've been one of your hosts, Kaylan, aka Catastrophe, joined as always by my co-hosts Adam at CS Radical and Chris at Jin and Chris, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye for now.